Ryan, are we ready to go?
Yep, we're ready to go.
Okay. Welcome everybody to the Board of Education meeting for tonight. It's nice to finally have spring. I drove by the school yesterday, Roy, or actually today, Roy, and there was just kids out and about, and the energy felt really nice. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful feeling. So I hope you are all enjoying this being able to get outside again. And whether or not you're learning or eating or socializing, it's nice to see the kids out. So we have a fairly robust agenda for tonight. We are being asked to adopt the 21-22 budget for the district. As we've shared at prior meetings, we're as a board are committed to maintaining the financial strength of our district by addressing very challenging issues and making some difficult decisions as needed. Dan will walk you through some new news that we've received from our last time we were together around state aid from the American Rescue Plan. So we look forward to hearing his thoughts on that. We're also going to hear a report from Aaron Kind on the guidance department and his first year in that role. Looking very much forward to that and hearing from him, how we balance this need to find the right academic institution and from a social perspective as well, and also to recognize the importance of the well-being of our students. But before we begin, we always have to approve the minutes from, in this case, the February 11th meeting and the March 6th special meeting. So may I have a motion to approve those minutes? I see Jack and Jen. All in favor?
Aye.
Say aye or raise your hand. Perfect. Motion passes. So Roy, we'll just go ahead and jump right to Dan. Okay, Dan, you're up.
Yes. I'm going to unmute and I'm going to share my screen.
And Dan, while you do that, I just want a heads up to the public that after Dan's presentation and a discussion by the board, we will open up comments from the public as it relates to the budget.
Okay. Here we are at March 23rd, and in the last few years, we have adopted the budget at this meeting, and it reflects that we're kind of towards the end of a process. After this, the public hearing and the referendum in May. We do have a few more weeks to adopt the budget, but since we meet regularly once a month, we've done it the last, I guess, 4 or 5 years at the March meeting. Let's see. Just want to reorient people with some quick slides that the board has seen over the last 2 budget workshops. Our enrollment is fairly flat, but trending down. We're down, I guess, in the last 5 years, it looks like we're down roughly, I don't know, 3% or so. But it's not impactful in the differences in 1 year, really, to give us an opportunity to do directly corresponding staff reductions. However, when we do look at the budget and we see an opportunity to consolidate positions, we do so. Our tax levy cap now sits at 1.71%. There are various factors that that factor into that. The first being the tax-based growth factor, which is given to us by New York State, and for this year for us was 0. Then we look at the allowable levy growth factor, which is basically the CPI over the designated period, which was 1.23%. And then we make a couple of calculations to both remove the impact of debt service and then add it back in so that the budget or the tax levy cap is neutral of changes in debt service because those were already approved by prior referendums. So that gives us a tax levy cap of 44.6 million. And that's 1.71% over the prior year. Now, this proposed budget sits at $50,618,988.
Dan?
Hey, Dan.
Dan.
Dan, before you continue,
Sure.
there's a box on your screen that says live captions and subtitles. Is there a way to go into presentation mode perhaps to get that off there? Or just hit the term, that little word got it.
I'm not seeing the same thing you are seeing.
Dan, do you have two screens?
No.
Okay. I mean, you can probably just go off of this one because what you're going into is a dual screen mode. So I think we're good on this one if you just want to use this.
Fair enough. Let's see. All right. So this proposed budget with a tax levy cap of 1.69% or a tax levy increase of 1.69% is $11,000 under the cap. And to look at where this compares to prior years, we're kind of at the average of the last 10 years as far as both tax levy changes and budget to budget changes. Looking at what our budget is comprised of, it's no big secret. About 75%, which is represented in the different shades of blue on the pie chart here, is basically salaries and benefits. We're in a people business. And the other 25% are various contractual services and equipment, supplies, and debt service to keep everything else running along. Here's how we calculate our estimated tax levy for 2021-22. We have our budget, which sits at 50.6 million. We collect revenue other than property tax of about 5.2 million. And without appropriating any fund balance, the tax levy change would be about 3.5%. We have, over the last, I guess, 5 or 6 years, we've set our fund balance appropriation at about $500,000 to offset the tax levy, which tends to be the minimum of our natural surplus each year. However, we up that to about $800,000 with some direct appropriations of reserve funds for retirement accounts and from our tax certiorari reserve in order to offset a temporary decrease in debt service reimbursement that is due to a change in state policy that waits until a project is completed before it starts reimbursing state aid on that project. And we expect that to be next year. We're hoping to complete our final cost report on the ongoing project over the summer. That gives us an estimated tax levy of about 44.6 million, which is the increase of 1.69%, which puts us under the cap. We move now to our estimated tax rate. We take our budget, subtract all revenue and appropriations from that to get our tax levy, which is 44.6 million. And then compare that to our assessment roll. Our January assessment roll was about 3.1 billion, which is a small increase over the prior year of about $10 million. And that equates to an estimated tax rate, if we just take the levy and divide it by the assessment roll, of about $14 per thousand of assessment. Or think of it this way, 1.42%. And the actual tax rate change from the prior year of 1.4% or $14 per thousand is a change of about 1.34%. And to make simple math out of it, this budget represents an increase of $189 per $1 million of assessed value. So a house assessed at $2 million, your taxes would go up about, I guess, what was it, about 380 bucks? And for historical perspective on our tax rate, it's kind of fluctuated in the area where it is now. Going back to 2014-15, it was a little higher. It's been a little lower recently. So we'll keep an eye on that in the coming years. Our assessment rolls have been fairly stable in that there's not a lot of room for new construction in Bronxville. So anything, any increases in the rolls would be directly a result of increased home values reflected by the market, and then also what little construction improvements might occur. So there we have it. If the board is willing to adopt this budget, we will put it forward for the public hearing at the May meeting. And later on in May, we will have a public in-person vote. Last year was a mail-in vote. We expect to be voting in person this year. Hopefully, so we're under the cap, and hopefully the people of Bronxville will support it. And that's all I have. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
And just in the spirit of context, do you want to cover the state aid from the American Rescue Plan?
Absolutely. We got word last week that the federal stimulus plan included about $317,000 in it for Bronxville. We don't know what form that's going to come. It could come in. We do know it's going to flow through the state, but we don't know how the state is going to get it to us. The trust level with the state at this point is not very high. They could just supplant our current aid with the stimulus money. They could just cut us a check for the $317,000. We don't know how it's going to come through, but if it does come through as incremental, it puts us in a very good position with the increased fund balance allocation for next year. We're almost the exact amount higher than we were in the prior year of the stimulus money. So I think the overall impact of allocating a little more fund balance this year will be very minimal.
Okay, questions from the board members? I'm watching all of your mute buttons.
When do you expect, or do we expect any kind of clarity on what will happen with 317 if it actually comes our way?
Well, they were told that they had 60 days to deliver it to us. That's in the legislation. Mm-hmm. So I would expect, probably by the time the budget vote comes around, we should know. Okay. Mid-May.
And I also read that was supposed to be used over up to a 3-year period. Are there other strings attached to this, or?
Well, we've kept track of our COVID expenditures,
okay,
COVID-related expenditures, and if it comes with no strings attached, that's fine. If it comes with as in the form of a reimbursement, and we're supposed to show proof that we've spent this money incrementally, we have no problem doing that either. I think we're situated that to take it all at once, if that's the way it can be delivered.
Okay.
And for now, Dan, it is not reflected in the budget that we're discussing because of the uncertainty that you have just described.
Correct.
Okay.
Most likely, if it comes incrementally in the current year, later on in the meeting, you'll see my my monthly financial report. And it would be reflected in there as current year surplus that eventually that we would take into fund balance at the end of the year.
And Dan, just at the workshop, we also talked about transportation, and just maybe to close that loop, this budget does include transportation for our students or our villagers who have students who go to private schools in a manner similar to the way that they were transported prior to COVID.
Yeah, right
That's
now,
code
we're-
word for small buses.
Sure. We are planning on resuming our policy and practice that we exercised prior to this year. COVID was a completely different year, having to maintain social distancing on the buses. We're hoping that with vaccinations and herd immunity, that next year will result in some sense of normalcy, and we can go back to higher capacity on buses and get back to vans. And then we're also going to undertake a very close analysis over the summer and into the fall on the most efficient practices for this. We're not looking to disenfranchise anybody by any means, but we're looking to be as efficient as we can, as in every other aspect of our business.
Okay. All right. Great. Connie, should we go to public questions?
Okay, I see we have seven community members watching, but no questions in the chat.
Okay. All right, so let's go ahead then and just call for the motion as it's written in the agenda, which is that be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Bronxville Union Free School District adopts the proposed general fund budget for the 21-22 school year, the amount of 51 million.
Oh, sorry, it should be 50 million.
Sorry,
50,618,988.
got it. Probably printed out my agenda earlier today. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
And we do this vote based on a roll call?
Yeah, we need a motion and a second, and then we'll do a roll call.
Okay, may I have a motion?
Motion.
Jen Russo,
Second,
Mike Finley. Okay, so Arlene,
Yes, aye.
yeah, is that a yeah?
Yes,
Mike Finley,
yes.
Jack Beerworth,
Yes.
Tom Curran. Tom Curran,
Yes.
Tom Evans,
Yes.
and Jen Russo.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes 6-0. Thank you.
thank you,
Thank you.
Connie, and thank you, Dan and Roy and Rachel and everybody that has contributed to the building of this budget. Without further ado, let's turn it over to Roy.
Great, thank you. And thank you to the board for the support of the budget. Appreciate that very much. Allows us to get to the work that we all enjoy. Nice to see everybody. Good evening. I just want to give just a couple of brief updates on things. On the COVID front, it's been a pretty good week, I would say. As of today, this week anyway, we don't have any new cases that we're aware of in schools, which has been terrific. And even more terrific because as you know, we've invited all our high school students back in full time. And as Arlene said, there's a lot more life going around our building. It's nice to see children in the hallways again. I forget how big the high school kids are. And when we see them in the hallway, it's like, wow, where'd they all come from? But it's amazing to me that a year ago we were shut down, unsure of what the future was holding for us. We thought it might have been a 1 week or 2 week or even 3 week shutdown at the time, unsure. And then things exploded, as you know. And here we are a year later, and we have all our children back in K-12. And it's been a really community effort, our support from the foundation, the community, the board, a terrific staff and leadership team that we enjoy. Everybody really contributed towards getting all our kids back in school, because that's what we really are all about. And despite, all the obstacles we had, it was really terrific to be able to get everybody back in again, and knock on wood, so far so good as we move forward. So things are good. And we've had a number of our teachers have been vaccinated. I forgot the exact number, probably upwards of 70-75% of our staff who have been fully vaccinated, which is really terrific. And it's also helped us get kids back into our school and people feeling a little bit more comfortable. it's appropriate that in a little while you'll hear from the guidance department because tomorrow they're coming back full time as well into their new suite. And we were just so pleased that that we can open our new space up. Things are really progressing for us. They've been home for this week because we had no space for them. We had to commandeer their old office as a classroom again, and they've been really challenged to work at home. So I appreciate their efforts in doing their work from afar. But I think, once we are able to open the buildings up and you get to see the new office space for them, you'll be quite impressed. I know Aaron's really chomping at the bit to set up his office, and we're all kind of jealous of the new space that he has as well. But hopefully everybody will get a chance to stop in and see the new space sometime very, very soon. But it's great to welcome the guidance department from the high school back as well. As things are progressing in our school, as you know, the fall 2 season is among us, and we had our first football game, which was a nice victory for our varsity and JV teams last week. And thanks to the efforts of a few of our parents, it was able to be streamed on the local live channel or the streaming channel. And it was nice because we all got to be able to see that even if we couldn't attend the game in person. I know we're hosting another game this Saturday, I believe, against Dobbs Ferry. So things are starting to look a little normal around the school. And very shortly, we'll have spring sports. And it looks like the spring season may be one of the few seasons this year that will almost seem like normal with all the sports going forward, number of games, et cetera, et cetera. The other great thing is that we've noticed that there's been such an uptick in the number of students playing football this year. We've had a lot larger participation rate, which is great. We've added a couple of coaches to support that, which is really nice to see as well. So our kids are starting to get, I'm sure they're happy to be engaged back in the school full time as well. So all in all, things are on a positive trend. I know we have the spring break coming up next week, and a lot of people have asked about travel restrictions and quarantining and all of that. As of today, we are still under the newer version of the old quarantining for travel, which means that if you've had a vaccine more than 2 weeks ago, but less than 3 months ago, you do not have to quarantine if you travel domestically. Or if you've tested positive for COVID in the last 3 months, you do not have to quarantine if traveling domestically. Now, the governor has announced at a press conference that as of April 1st, no one will have to quarantine. But we heard yesterday from the Department of Health that that's not really the new guidelines just yet. Well, he announced it. There's nothing that permits them to allow that just yet. They think it might happen. And if it does, it's kind of smack in the middle of our break. But maybe people are counting that. But we want people to use all precautions as normal because we're so close to the finish line. I feel that we want to make sure that everybody pays attention and don't let their guard or their mask down during this time, so we can get through this together and get back at things. A lot of activities are going to be happening in spring. A lot of opportunities for kids to enjoy some of the things that they missed last year, and we don't want anything to get in the way of that. So that's pretty much it for my update on things. Again, we appreciate the support that we've received over the last year and in allowing us to get everybody back in play again. So that's it. I know we have, and next part of my report is really the approval of some calendar. Arlene, I'm not sure if you want me to go right into that or.
Why don't you go right ahead?
Okay, sure. So the first thing you're being asked to consider and approve as a board is a change to the current year calendar. And I think we've spoken about this before, since we have not used 4 snow days. Actually, we haven't used any technically snow days. The BTA contract calls for a give back day, if you will. And it's being recommended that we take the Monday after Easter as our give back day. So schools will be closed if the board approves on April 5th. So I'd ask you to consider that first.
And Roy, as I recall, you have communicated that to the community, so they had a chance to react and plan accordingly.
Yeah, we have. I've talked about it at each of the council meetings and et cetera. And we've sent it out as part of the communication letter as well.
So can I have a motion as stated in the agenda to recognize the compensatory day on April 5th? Got it, Connie? All in favor, can you want to raise your hand?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Great, thank you. And then the next calendar is really to approve our next school year calendar, the 2020-21-22 school calendar. You did have an opportunity at our last board meeting to see as a first read. There have been no changes to that. There's very little wiggle room, if you will, in that entire calendar. So the board is being asked to approve that officially.
I have a motion to approve the calendar for the next year. Mr. Curran and Jennifer. Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
County motion passes.
Great, thank you. And finally, it's going to be my pleasure to introduce Aaron and the team of counselors. We thought this would be a good time for the board and the public to get a sense of some of the work that Aaron and his team have been working on throughout the school year. We have 2 new counselors this year that perhaps you haven't really had a chance to get to know at all because of pandemic. But Deanna and Alyssa they can't wait to be out in public and talk to the board, I'm sure. Ellen is here as well, but we appreciate you guys coming in and letting us know some of the great things that are going on. So Aaron, it's all yours.
Thanks, Roy. I'm just gonna share my screen. Let me find my presentation mode if I can. Everybody can see that, right?
Yes.
Great. Okay, thank you. Good evening, everybody. As Roy mentioned, we are very excited to be here tonight. Very excited for you to see and hear from and meet our 2 new counselors, Alyssa Zelikoff and Deanna Hassan-Jakai. We've done a lot this year, and despite masks and social distancing and every other limitation that COVID has kind of thrown at us, the department has revamped, reimagined the structures, supports, and services in place with the intention of better serving student and parent needs. And so some of what you'll hear tonight are programs redesigned for the counselors to get to better know their students, and some of the changes were made simply just in response to the times. The idea of passing college applications across the desk didn't really work back in September, so we made everything electronic, and so you'll see some of that. And frankly, some of the changes are a combination of the two, in response to COVID, and also with the goal of just, again, the counselors better connecting with the students in the grade and on their caseload. Before we dig into the grade level changes or the major grade level changes, I just wanted to sort of refresh everybody's memory about the study that was done back in 2018 by Marty Brooks. At the time, it was, I guess the findings, I guess, kind of cut deep, I guess you could say. Now under new leadership and new team membership, I think we have a more nimble, more dynamic department in place to respond, to take action on what Marty Brooks suggested and beyond, for that matter, but also to just really welcome feedback from both inside and in this case outside of the community. And you'll hear a little bit about some of the programming that we put in place to make that happen. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Deanna Hassan-Jakai, who is going to talk to you about the major change for the freshmen, which was the sort of reimagined freshman transition experience.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Deanna Hassan-Jakai, for those of you who I have not had the pleasure of meeting yet. And I've been tasked with kind of being a huge part of revamping the freshman transition program, which is totally awesome that I've gotten the chance to be involved in this from the start of this school year. Over the summer, I had the opportunity to work with Anna Batacola, discussing the freshman transition program, what has been done in the past and what kind of the plans were for this year. So this year I co-run freshman transition with Dr. Meyer and Dr. Viviano, and of course with the help of Mr. Kind and the other counselors. So this year freshman transition was completely virtual, which is very different from how it's been run in the past. We started off the year having seniors connect with individual students. So they would have 2 or 3 students that they would mentor, and they would meet over Zoom, they would text, email, in some cases meet up socially distanced, of course, with masks. And then we kind of transitioned, so to speak, in November, where we paired seniors into groups, which was the traditional model of the freshman transition program. We hosted virtual Zoom trainings on topics as shown in the slide before you, such as how to run a sufficient and productive check-in with the student, sleep and wellness, space and time, et cetera, et cetera. These are some samples of some slides we provided for the seniors during our Zoom trainings. And then after those trainings, the seniors would meet in the small groups with the freshmen to discuss these topics. And then later on this year, which we're still continue to work on, we've partnered with different clubs and organizations on campus. Students were reaching out to me, to Mr. Kind, Dr. Meyer, with ideas to kind of collaborate. So for example, we helped organize the Kevin Hines event last week, where we had an opportunity for Freshman Transition and Social Issues Awareness Club to come together to bring Kevin Hines, I guess in quotation marks, to Bronxville to discuss mental health with the students. He gave an extremely powerful talk, and the students had the opportunity to debrief in these smaller groups in which they've developed relationships from the beginning of the year. So we're hoping to kind of continue that model for next year, and it's been great so far. And with that, I'm going to hand it off to Alyssa Zelikoff, who will be talking about some of the things we've done with the sophomores this year.
Awesome. Thanks, Deanna. So nice to meet you. For those of you who I haven't had the opportunity to meet, Alyssa Zelikoff, I'm the second of the new counselors in the counseling department this year. So tonight I'm talking to you about our sophomores. So as I'm sure you can imagine, sophomore year can be pivotal for many students. And so in 10th grade, students have the opportunity to build on the skills they sort of achieved in 9th grade while simultaneously starting to explore passions and interests. So in the hopes of furthering this exploration in a meaningful way, the guidance department conducts 4 classroom presentations this spring. 2 of these presentations are devoted to Naviance's Do What You Are software, which allows students to complete interest inventories and engage in self-exploration activities. And so these sessions really provide students with the space to think about how their passions, interests, and their current skill sets could lead to future college majors, possibly future careers. And so through guided conversations, students really embark on the first step in the college process, which at a 10th grade level is self-exploration. And you'll see on the slide some snippets from our Jamboard that students were able to sort of let us know what they are thinking about dream jobs. And so it's a great starting point for that conversation. We're also fortunate to have our school psychologist, Dr. Viviano, and the high school psychology interns lead 2 more sessions with the sophomore class. And these sessions briefly touch upon social and emotional development through the lens of school-based DBT. And these 2 classroom meetings really offer students an education and an introduction to these invaluable DBT skills. So to provide you with an example, thank you, of an activity that we were able to do with the sophomores. So we asked students to interview an adult in their life and ask how they got to where they are today in their career. So for some, this path is completely linear, following sort of a prescribed plan, which can be one potential route. And then for others, and quite honestly, more often than not, paths are windy and curvy and don't necessarily follow the roadmap that maybe you once thought you would follow or even wanted to follow. So our messaging to students, and really the goal of these thought exercises, is that all of the above paths are okay. These are the times really to start exploring and asking questions about what feels like the right fit for a variety of different reasons. And so these interviews that the students conducted provided awesome anecdotes that really prove the point that you can and should explore and follow your interests, even if it leads to an alternative route. And then the goal is, once students can sort of identify a few areas of interest, they can start aligning them with how they fit into things like coursework and extracurricular activities, etc. And then lastly, thank you, Mr. Kind. This slide sort of highlights some of the amazing work that Dr. Viviano and the psych interns are doing with the sophomores now. So through a variety of guided exercises and activities, the goal of these presentations are really to educate students on the importance of social, emotional, and physical health. So accomplishing small tasks like eating a well-balanced diet, for example, sleeping the right amount, exercising each week, which is admittedly hard. It can impact a person's overall mood and behavior. So the students are taught that, through these lessons, the benefits of finding their own balance to be able to manage the stressors that they come in contact every day. And so that's just a snippet of what we've been doing with the sophomores. And now Ellen's going to be talking to you about the juniors.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. It's wonderful to see everyone. Thank you so much for having us. So in regards to our junior program this year, we really wanted to hone in and dig deep and give a more individualized approach to our work with these students. We started by creating a Google Classroom so that we can have regular communication with the 11th graders throughout the year. We started it as a counseling department initiative, and it was such an effective mode of communication that actually sometimes we end up passing along messages for teachers in that Google Classroom. But it's great to have this classroom, and we've created now Google Classrooms for other grades, our 10th graders, and we of course have the 12th graders at the beginning of the year. And with these Google Classrooms, they join it once and it will follow them. So they will always get these communications from us, moving forward. We had been doing junior workshops as a new initiative a couple years ago, but we're always seeking to refine and improve it. We did survey the juniors on their experiences. Not last year, because unfortunately with everything that happened, we didn't have that opportunity, but 2 years ago. And we reflected on that, and we continue to try to improve our junior workshops. Some of the things that we've done is we started them earlier, starting in a little before second quarter ended, I believe. No, a little before the end of second quarter, right? And they are more interactive. Although the limitations of what is going on in our school and social distancing has made some challenges, it has also been a benefit, in disguise, because it kind of catapulted us into exploring a lot of different modes of exciting activities that we could do with students online. We did jam boards, we've used the Pear Deck software, we've done Kahoots with them. So it's been a lot of fun to explore these new things, and the students have been so responsive to them and really engaged. Upcoming next week, we are co-sponsoring an event with the 11th grade officers. It's called Bringing Wellness to the College Process. That's something we're really looking forward to doing, where all the 11th graders will be able to explore the college process from a holistic way. And we will be there to speak. Dr. Viviana, our school psychologist, will be there to speak. We've arranged for college admissions officers to be there to speak, and I believe we're going to have a rotating room set up. So, so the kids are going to be able to get a lot of information, and hopefully, leave that night feeling like they learned a lot. So we're really looking forward to that. Also, with the knowledge that we've gleaned from working over the years, we really want to emphasize finding your fit. So we work with students and talk to them about, what kind of college match would be best for them. Why are they looking for what they're looking for? This is some of the things that students had suggested in one of our sessions, and this was great because it really got to the array of reasons behind students choosing the schools that they choose, or doing the research for the schools to formulate their list. So it was really a great activity.
Thanks, Ellen. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the changes for the seniors, and sort of departmental changes, and a piece about college and next year. So for the seniors, when I started in July, obviously what was on the top of everybody's mind, including my own, was applying to college in the midst of a pandemic. And what we heard from colleges, or what I should say, the counselors heard from colleges, is while the world around us is, in different levels of hysteria, much of the process is very much the same, right? You apply, you write an essay, you send recommendation letters, like some of it is very familiar. But what I recognized is, for the current seniors, then juniors, when kind of the world shut down, if you will, so much of this experience was really just stripped away from them. And what used to be college trips over spring break was, real. I don't even think we had a spring break, but that's for another, that's in the past. But I wanted to make sure, really sort of day one, September, that the students and the parents got the information that they needed, that they would have usually always been able to get by visiting campuses, but haven't been able to get because it was like a crazy world to live in from March to August, if not even still today. So with that, as Ellen said, we created a Google Classroom for the seniors. We got them on there early, and we really, if you're a parent and you're subscribed, you will hopefully recall seeing a lot of just push notifications. Hey, there's visits, there's colleges teaming up to do virtual visits. We just really wanted to make sure that they kind of felt supported, and also felt informed about everything that to them was feeling very foreign. That was part of also the reason for their senior night, that I asked Dean Greg Roberts from the University of Virginia to come speak at, so they could also hear from the colleges the message that the counselors were hearing, but maybe not parents and students were getting. And so that was, historically, those nights have just been counselors kind of sharing, like, you need to fill out the application, you need to send it to us before you send it to the college. And it was very procedural, and we really sort of redesigned that to make it a little bit more informative, because that's, I think, what the times called for. As you've heard from us in the past, colleges come do on-site visits in the fall. Obviously, that wasn't happening. So now we just opened our Zoom doors, and it turns out we had more college visits than ever before. I literally counted them from last year to this year, and there was a 75% increase. Finding space and 6 feet of distance for all the students and a counselor to be on some of these visits was quite difficult, but we got through it. And I think in the end, the students found, quite frankly, like, I think some of these colleges are rethinking all the traveling that they have their college reps do, because some of these visits were so successful. And then just like, again, sort of major takeaways, as I mentioned, we had to really sort of leverage the functionality of the Common Application, which has an electronic sharing feature that we hadn't been using in the past because we were asking students to print things. So we moved everything from paper onto online, and the same can actually be said for a lot of just like sort of document stuff that we would ask students to bring us before processing applications. So it was a lot of, we kind of came to like a digital agency for a little bit of the fall, especially as it relates to college. And I think, I think we kept up quite well. Just shifting gears or maybe taking more of a step back as a department. Obviously, we have some new faculty members starting tomorrow. We're going to have a new space, and we've also been pivoting and changing and growing to kind of keep up with the times. Just last week, we had an advisory committee. One of the school board members joined us, Roy, Mara, the counseling department, Ann Meyer, Tom Viviano, the high school psychologist, a parent, and a student did another sort of Marty Brooks survey, if you will. This one was a little bit more sort of Likert scale scoring driven, but an attempt to get feedback from, from all the constituencies that we serve. That was something that the state asked high schools to do going back a few years, which we're now doing this year. And we'll be getting together again in late May, early June to kind of talk about those findings and set some goals for the years to come. Again, sort of in response to the times, suggestions by parties, we created a newsletter which we're sending out on a monthly basis. In addition to the classroom, where we're pushing out information to the students, that myself and also the department's been partnering with the PTA where appropriate. I've been a active member of the BOLD community. I've been doing some Be Well things, just really trying to cast a wider net, I guess you could say. And then lastly, bringing in some speakers when appropriate. We had, as I mentioned, Greg Roberts join us for the senior night. We had a Georgetown rep join us for the junior night. We had Sherry Vernon from the University of Chicago do, again, what we did in person with the case study event, the college case study. She did it on Zoom. I thought that went over really, really well. And, again, just, I talked about being like 1% better the last time I was in front of the board, which was quite some time ago. And, I continue to like think about that and approach our work, my work in that fashion. And I really think we've definitely sort of grown exponentially this year, and we will continue to do so. So on the college side, it's been interesting. So a little bit of data. The past 3 years, so from 2018 to 2020, we averaged 911 college applications from the graduating class. That's so early, regular, rolling, restrictive early action, kind of all of the above, ED2. This year, as you have been reading and as you can see from something that the Common App put out, applications are up, and I can talk a little bit more about specific schools in a second, but our application numbers went way up, and you can see them in front of you. Just digging a little bit deeper, just to give you a sense of specific schools. These are regular decision and early decision numbers for this year. And these percent changes are in comparison to the trailing 3-year average.
Aaron, I'm sorry to interrupt. Are these globally or just for Bronxville?
This is just for Bronxville. Yes, these are just for Bronxville. Thank you. These are just internally. But globally, as you may have read, I think Harvard was up 40%. The University of Michigan was up 30%. So they went from 45 or 50,000 applications to 85,000 applications. NYU, I think, approached close to 100,000 applications. You may have read that Colgate, which is a beautiful school upstate, received 100% more applications. And I think here you see why, right? So, Boston College is up, Cornell's up, Dartmouth is up, Georgetown is down, and everything below that, Michigan, Virginia, and Villanova are up. And so what happened here is everywhere on this screen and almost everywhere in the country, with the exception of Georgetown, they went test optional. And so where everybody went test optional, Georgetown said, even if you don't like your score, you have to send it. Whereas again, Cornell, Boston College, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, gave students score choice, gave them the optionality of setting the test score. And as you all very well know, tests were being canceled left and right dating back to March of 2020. And so just finding a test, finding a seat became really, talk about an arms race, became really difficult to achieve. And so what ended up happening is students either that had a score, and as you know, we offered the SAT and the ACT in the fall. Almost everybody that wanted to take a test in Bronxville could, or at least had the opportunity to. And a lot of our students did, and a lot of our students did send scores. And a lot of our students send scores to College A, but not to College B. And so what ended up happening, as usually does when a school goes test optional, is they just get so many applications. And so I don't have any sort of like after action data, if you will. I don't have the results all to share with you because, quite frankly, we're still waiting on them. College results are coming out as we speak and into like early April. So, we've definitely had a few bright lights at a variety of schools, both early decision and early action. And quite frankly, there's been some schools where students haven't done so well or as well, or I would even say as well as I may have expected. And the feedback that we've got there, because I've been on the phone, Ellen's been on the phone, Alyssa's actually been on the phone a little bit, is that the colleges just had so many applicants. And it was, and I'm going to like quote here, in any other year, this student would have gotten in, whichever the school is. This student would have gotten in any other year, but this year they had so much supply that they really, really truly got to form their own class through. At this point, that conversation was, I believe, an early decision. So we're I think from this year, as it relates to college, there was a lot for us to learn. I don't think anybody could have predicted this. I'm just going to go back, here. I don't think even I would have predicted this. Some of the numbers that we saw nationally, I don't think anybody would have predicted. Quite frankly, the colleges were not ready for the volume of applications. So I think we've learned a lot from this in the absence of results even still. And I think next year the counselors will use this information to better arm families and students about really sort of being wise with the list of colleges that they apply to. Especially since it's looking like colleges are once again going to be test optional for the 2021-2022 application cycle. I'm just wrapping up here. Just looking ahead, I'm always kind of thinking about what's next. There's still a lot of room for growth. I'm not really going to go through this line by line, but there's a lot of areas that I think we can do a lot better in. There's a lot of areas where I think we can better meet the needs of our students. There's a lot of opportunity for us to get to know our students better. We've really, through a variety of structures this year, really tried to make an extra effort to reach out to a variety of students. It's been difficult, as you well know, for maybe your own children that are in school. Like this was not easy this year. I tip my hat to the other counselors, especially those that came in with never being in Bronxville. We really did a lot to reach out to parents, a lot to reach out to students. If Zoom fatigue was real back in, June, I don't even know what it is now. I'm really tired of looking at my face on the screen, but, we've really, kind of gone to the mat, I would say, to really support to everybody, quite frankly, really everybody. And so here's some initiatives that we've been thinking about. I'm excited about this advisory committee. I'm excited about some of the ways in which we can kind of leverage things that we've been doing to make it even better. And just lastly, on like a personal note, I've been looking for opportunities to sort of organically and naturally step in and add value or add my services to, K through 8, I would say. And I've been doing that, through sitting in on 8th grade team meetings, which the middle school has on a weekly basis. I've been doing that through the Be Well committee and sort of kind of co-facilitating some of the elementary school meetings that have been occurring, and just, continuing to look for those natural entry points, in consultation with Roy, Trisha, and Tom. And I'm going to stop here just so I can see everybody's tiles. That's really all we have for tonight. I'm obviously happy to answer any questions you have or elaborate on anything. It's I think what's been the best part, especially the past 2 weeks, is seeing the students back in the building. To Roy's point, while the counselors have been working from home, I've been going in and finding corners and nooks to take calls from. But it's just so great to see the students in person. I know the teachers are really excited. I should say the high school students in person. The teachers are really excited. The counselors are really excited. We're going to try, at least in the beginning, to meet with the 8th graders in person for their family meetings that we're having after spring break. So we're really, to Roy's point, excited to sort of resume some type of normalcy, whatever that really looks like in a sort of post-pandemic world.
So Erin, I thank you very much. I've been looking forward to this presentation, and your leadership is just phenomenal. So thank you for that. And, it gave me an insight into how you've taken Marty's recommendations and really made them real for you, and the department, and your embracing of technology. That was my biggest pet peeve. Why was I dealing with paper? And just your embracing of relationship with the students, and then also acknowledging that you have more to learn. That is a wonderful vulnerability that for me at least just provides me an insight into your leadership. I am curious on one thing. Tell me more about, because as a board, we made an investment in the psychologists. How do you feel, how's that relationship going? How would you say the return on investment is around that? Speak to me about that topic.
Sure. Specifically in the high school, or?
Actually, K through 12, if you could.
Sure. Well, I mean, so, I'll start at, at K, and I don't mean to step on anybody's toes. So Trisha, I apologize if you feel I'm doing that, but Joyce is doing an amazing job with the work that she's doing with the CARES program. I'm kind of seeing it in 2 roles, as a parent, and also obviously as a faculty member and administrator. That work is definitely growing at like a hockey stick rate. Just last year, I believe, was the first year they've already done some surveys, and Joyce and Manu and Samantha have taken the feedback from the teachers, the parents, and the students, and adopted that to make it that much better this year. I have no doubt that sort of reflective practice will continue. And again, in the middle school, Jillian Tomlin's been great, and we've been introducing DBT skills in the advisory in the middle school. And finally, I mean, I really can't say enough great things about Tom Viviano. I mean, he's at all of our weekly meetings as a counseling department. He's an essential member of the school. He's been super supportive and responsive, and especially this year, which has obviously highlighted a lot of sort of mental health needs for our students. And he's just been really proactive when he could be, and definitely responsive when needed. And, and a testament to him, he, designed these lessons with the psychology interns. We were going to kind of go and support him in presenting that information. He's like, you don't need to go, I got it, and so like he's really kind of taken the baton and run with it.
That's great. Thanks. Other board members, comments, questions?
Aaron, got a question. In the last, I think slide, it said revise the Bronxville profile. Is that to the outside world, or could you give more?
Yeah, that was the school profile. So the school profile goes along with just like the packet of college applications. So, the student's transcript, the counselor's recommendation letter, the teacher's recommendation letter, and a school profile goes to every, kind of gets embedded in the PDF that gets sent off. I can't pull it up. I mean, it's definitely online. Just in speaking with some colleges and sort of looking at what, I wouldn't even say neighboring schools, but definitely neighboring schools, but just like schools at large, I think we could just use, some color. It could just use some revamping, some updating. And so I'm just, it's on like kind of one of those like really long to-do lists that I'm going to get to this summer. I don't have the best graphic design skills, but I'm going to figure out how to, if you take a look at it, it's lacking color. Like literally it's black and white, and I want to just bring it to life. I think there's also more that we can be putting in it about our institution that's not there. And so I think it just needs some updating.
Mike, it's a great marketing tool, and it doesn't look like a marketing tool.
Yeah.
Well, the only audience is the colleges.
This is true. I mean,
not other people look at it, but I mean, this is a deadly serious business, and the only people who are trying to impact are college admissions officers, not parents, not students, college admissions officers. And if we can do it better to sell, we did it in my last district. We rewrote 98% of the profile after getting feedback from colleges.
Yeah. And again, like you said, it could be better used to market and promote, and it's a little bit, I guess it just needs to be redesigned is where I'm going. So I think it's just ripe for an upgrade.
And we have a good story to tell.
Of course. Of course.
I have a question about how are you going to advise the current year's juniors on the college application process next year, given the incredible changes this year? And then I guess many schools will remain test optional, probably not quite as many as were this year, but I mean, it's like the whole rule book has gone out the window.
Yeah, so it definitely has to a certain extent. I mean, as I said in the beginning, a lot of it's the same, right? There's still the same main components, but the landscape's changed. So I mean, it's multi-layered, right? It kind of starts this year, actually. Following spring break, we're going to pick back up those junior workshops and start talking to them about their application, and talking to teachers about recommendation letters. The English teachers, Mr. Cross, junior English teacher, and Miss Kaminsky, the other junior English teacher, are going to start to talk to them about their college essay. We've been pushing out a lot of just virtual visit information to the juniors to try to get them sort of kind of in that headspace. I know just from speaking to juniors that it's like, it almost feels like a bigger task to like watch something from their couch than to go visit. I'm not sure, but it just like, it seems like a burden, and I guess it's just like, it's not fun, right? Like it's, it's not what it once was. But it is what it is now. So I think just talking to them about getting into that headspace and getting through to the virtual visits, quicker is going to make them more informed about the schools that they're applying to. I didn't speak to it, but when we get back in August, I'd like to have an event just a meeting where the seniors come in and we finish up their sort of like the main section of their college application. So this all speaks to just like preparation for the application process. And then there's obviously, the meeting we're having after spring break with the juniors about bringing wellness to it, which is kind of what you're asking about. Ultimately, if we just fast forward, I think it's really about just being a little bit more focused. I don't know if focused is the word. A little bit more intentional with the colleges they're applying to. I think this year it was like you heard from or read about the quote from the vice provost of Cornell. This like scatter shot approach this was not the year for that. I mean, there's been other years, maybe following, 08, where that could have been a good idea. But this was not the year to just like send out as many applications as you could. I don't know that any year is, but so for this year's juniors, I think it's really about just talking to them about really sort of trying to dial in and, for lack of a better expression, just like button up their list. So they're not sending out so many applications that, the potential of so many deferrals, which is actually a lot of what we've seen more so than rejections, but so many deferrals comes back, because that really just, it kind of makes the process that much more stressful and anxiety producing. So I think a combination of education, services by us, and really just advising when it comes time to senior year, after they've had more time to sort of kind of think about where it is that they want to apply to.
Great
Thank
question,
you.
Jen. Thank you. Other comments from board members? Okay, Erin, once again, thank you ever so much. This was incredibly helpful, and we are just thankful for your leadership.
I appreciate your comments, and I'm happy to serve. It's been great. It's been really the administrative team is great. Obviously, the counselors are amazing, and so it's really been a great experience, even behind Zoom and masks and all those things.
Great. Thank you again. And Rachel, turn it over to you for personnel items.
Yes, good evening, everybody. You have before you resolutions. The first three are faculty members that are requesting leaves. We then have two new hires based on retirements that have just been announced, as well as a revision to a leave replacement salary. We have two teacher aides that have submitted their resignation for the purpose of retirement. And I just want to take a moment and thank them for their service. Rosary Forlani has been a elementary teacher aide, most recently in the kindergarten classes. And this is her 23rd year with us. And Noreen Herber has been a teacher aide, really K-12 throughout her 22 years with us, most recently in the middle school. So I do want them to hear publicly how grateful we are for their dedicated service over so many decades.
Agreed.
In addition, we have a resolution to appoint a new substitute teacher who happens to be an alum, which is always very exciting. We have a motion for the board to accept the attached resolution appointing the election personnel. That's for our annual school budget and board election of May 18th, along with their compensation rates. In addition, we have one other resignation. Bonnie Polacco has been our certified occupational therapist assistant for the past 15 years. And she has worked diligently with many of our students who have motor deficits. And it will be difficult to replace her, and we're grateful for her 15 years of service. And then the last resolutions speak to new coaches. As you recall, when coaches are first employed by the district, we must have individual resolutions to approve them. And then if they return a following season, then you would just see them on the coaching roster. So there are 4 new coaches for you to consider, as well as a revised Fall 2 coaches roster and the spring coaches roster. So that would be resolutions A through Q for you to consider, please.
Sorry, Rachel, on the election, the resolution designating election personnel, we do that separately, correct? Because it requires a roll call. Is that true?
No,
I'm just looking at the bottom of that document. Connie, you're on mute, sorry.
It's not necessary.
Oh,
Yeah,
I like that answer.
recognize that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So may I have a motion? Looks like Jen and Tom Evans. Any further discussion? All in favor, just raise your hand in case you're on mute. Okay, looks like you got us all, Connie. Motion carries.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rachel. Dan, for you? To finance.
I shared, I believe Connie sent out my January 31, 2021 preliminary financial summary. As you can see, we're starting to trend up with our current year surplus, and this is before any additional aid comes through. So we've already made up our traditional $500,000 allocation from fund balance to next year's budget. And if the $300,000 comes through, we should get easily over 800,000. And it represents a big turn from where we thought we were going to be over the summer when the state was cutting 20% of our aid. And, the foundation helped us out with a lot of the COVID expenditures we were experiencing over the summer. So it's all good news so far in the current year.
Okay, and you also have some foundation grants?
Yes, we have 2 off-cycle grants that were approved last night. I don't know if Ann, you want to speak to these at all? I think they're both for the high school. They total about $16,000.
Sure. One is continuing our work from last year, which was paused due to COVID. So the high school is developing some new ideas to launch. We're hoping to be able to revisit those and do that this spring. And then the other is utilizing the same consultant group, doing some debriefs around what we've learned from COVID that we can take forward. So we've actually run 2 sessions. We're doing another one. That data is being analyzed and then shared back to various constituent groups.
Great, thanks, Ann. The second one really caught my interest. What a great gift from the foundation, so that we have that grant that we can really do that thinking and get it out to the community as they go through the summer and prepare to return to school. Any comments or questions from board members? Okay. May I have a motion to approve the 2 grants as listed in the agenda? I see Mike and I see Tom Evans.
Okay.
All in favor? Okay, motion passes. Facilities.
I have a quick facilities update. There's no action items. As we mentioned before, Aaron was smiling because he is moving into his exposed brick wall studio tomorrow. And the high school office is moving back into their space, which is great. The atrium is coming together real nice. It's on target, probably a few weeks away. Hopefully they can do a lot over April break. The supplemental project, which is removing that the partition in the gymnasium, we're awaiting a cooperative bid proposal that I expect to get in by the end of the week. We have a little preliminary pricing from contractors who are currently on site that we thought was a little high. So we're looking to do that, looking to check out cooperative bid proposal. And if that does not look good to us, then we still have time to go out to bid for a summer project. And we do anticipate that we can get it done over the summer, so it'll be ready for beginning of the school year if we decide to move forward. And I'll bring those results to the facilities committee after the
Okay.
break.
Okay, great. Right before we go to Joe, who's going to bring us home, Aaron, I just want to make sure you check the chat box because you had a chat that's going to be coming your direction for the public session. And Joe, bring us home. You have to take yourself off mute first, though.
Good evening, everyone. I'm not sure if you had an opportunity to look at the merger resolutions for this year. So what I did is I went back with research that Karen had left. So a few of our mergers this year did not take place, our traditional mergers. And that's anything we've done with New Rochelle in the past. New Rochelle was not allowing any combinations. So for instance, girls volleyball, the skiing, and swim and dive did not take place this year. And that's because New Rochelle was not allowing mergers to happen. I will say in girls volleyball, which would have been this season, obviously, no one expressed any interest in me, but I do think we should try again because the student we had would be in 11th grade this year. So next year she would be in 12th grade if they do express interest in participating. For skiing, there was we are the host for skiing. So with that, we have a full complement. I think we had 23 kids from our own school. And then last year we had 3 students from New Rochelle who came and skied with us. Boys swim and dive, we did have some interest in about 3 to 4 children who wanted to participate in swim and dive, but we could not get a merger to happen. And those children are all returning next year. So that would be something very positive for us. Our hockey was very successful. We did have 9 boys from Bronxville. Now, keeping in mind, normally we have a varsity hockey and a modified hockey, but this year it was just varsity. And for the safety of the younger athletes, we did not encourage them to try to play varsity just because of the physicality of the sport. So we do have 9 students. 6 will be returning next year. And in this year's team, 7 students came from Eastchester and 3 students came from Edgemont. Total on the hockey team, we had 21 participants total between the 3 schools, and 7 were seniors. This year, for the first time in a while, Tuckahoe did not supply any student athletes for hockey, but they are still interested in doing the merger because they do have middle school children who would like to participate next year. Girls swim and dive, we had 25 of our own student athletes who participate in swim and dive, and 4 children come from Tuckahoe. And then the last one we do is softball. So obviously we did not have softball last season. I will say though, the season before we had 1 9th grader and 1 10th grader who wanted to go play for Tuckahoe because they are the host of that. I have not had anybody express interest yet about that, but I'm assuming it will happen in the next couple of days here because we are going to be opening up Family ID for our spring season. So it looks like all of our mergers are very strong. And I do know New Rochelle, speaking to their AD, was actually, I won't say upset, but he was disappointed we could not merge them this year at all for anything that was their school, decide no mergers this year. But next year, they're very excited about continuing the merger. And we've already, he's already spoken to his powers that be, and they do say they will accept merger starting next year. So we'll get that combination back. So it looks like the 6 sports that we do merge with should all be strong for next year.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Yes.
So let me ask for a motion to approve the athletic mergers for the next school year. Looks like Tom Evans and Jack. All in favor?
Aye.
Seeing none opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Joe, ever so much. As it relates to board reports, we have covered all the reports just within the agenda itself. Our next meeting is April 20th. Put it on your calendars. And with that, I'll turn it to Aaron to answer the question in the queue and look to Brad if there's any other questions, and Connie.
I'm okay to go.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you for the question. And I will say the following. So just for the board and for anybody watching, As Mr. Beersworth mentioned, the high school profile is a document that goes off to colleges and gives the colleges a sense of the school and a sense of the senior class. So it might have the average SAT score of the entire class. It might have the average ACT score of the entire class. It lists the courses that we offer, how many students were national merit semifinalists or finalists. So just it gives information about our school. The grade distribution is exactly that. It shows how many students have, a range of grades. Particularly, I wasn't sure what Scarsdale was doing, but I can speak to, part of the professional development communities that I'm a part with, that there was a lot of conversation this past summer because essentially every school almost in the world went pass fail at some level or asked students if they wanted a grade or wanted a P. There was a lot of schools doing a lot of different things. College counseling offices and school counselors really struggled with showing grade distributions because specifically as it relates to Bronxville, the grade distribution, the bell curve moved a little bit because of the way in which we graded fourth quarter last year. So we intentionally left that off as to not to disadvantage some students in the graduating class that might, even with a pass fail for the fourth quarter from their junior year, might not have benefited for that. So it was really like a decision for the collective group versus anything else. And I think, in terms of going forward, I didn't say this to Mr. Finley, but my intention is to really just sort of gather some school profiles from Scarsdale, Horace Mann, Fieldston, some of the boarding schools, just kind of sort of see what makes sense for us, and if that piece of information seems to make sense for us, then it'll be back on for next year. If that piece of information doesn't work for our, for our graduating class, then we'll probably leave that off. And I'll just close with this: colleges most definitely know how to figure out where students are at in the class ranking, if you will. We do report the highest GPA, and obviously students are self-reporting their own GPA, so they're able to get a sense of where a student falls.
Okay.
One of the things that I got from college admissions departments was to do an equation between what the grade students got in a course, and say something like an SAT 2. So that if I said to the colleges that students who got a B+ or better tended to get a 700 or better on an SAT 2, that told them something other than just a distribution of grades.
Yeah, no, that's a good point and an interesting way to show that information without disadvantaging anybody.
Actually, not our idea. It was a question from, I think, the Yale admissions department to me.
There's no more SAT 2s though, unfortunately.
Yeah, but it's, the question is, can you give college admissions officers information that allows them to better interpret what they're getting from Bronxville students?
Right. There's going to be some creativity there, Aaron, for sure.
I'm looking forward to it. I've got my creative juices are already flowing, and so I'm happy to take it on.
Good. So Roy, anything for the good of the order before we call for an adjournment?
No, I just want to wish everybody a happy spring break, and we're looking forward to the season ahead.
Okay, great. Thank you, everybody, for everything that you do, each and every one of you, from board members to school administrators to principals, all of it. I mean, it's been a miraculous what you've accomplished, and it's been a year, and you've I was just going to say something inappropriate, but you've really done a great job. So with that, may I have an emotion to adjourn? Okay, I see Jennifer and I see Jack, and all in favor, of course, say aye. Everybody said yes. Good night, everybody. And thank you ever so much. Oh, wait, Connie, did you have something? Are you
No, I'm just thumbs up.
thumbs up? We're done. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Thanks. Good night, everybody.